is 2015 version. So what happens in the international standards field, we have got a global non-profit organization called ISO, which stands for International Organization for Standardization. So it is mandated uh, to develop global standards for literally anything. They would have probably more than 200, more than 300 international standards that relate to broad spectrum of everyday use the products and services. So one of the early standards to be established by ISO was the quality standard around 1987, because naturally of the need to standardize global trade and to standardize business practices that would guarantee delivery of quality products and service across the world. So if you were going to be implementing an effective ISO 9001 system in South Africa, what that basically means is you have aligned your business practices to global best practice. It means you could actually take your business and operate it in any country in the world. You'll be assured of meeting any country requirements. Okay, so the standards of ISO 9001 basically gives, I'll give an outline of the outlook of the standard, why it is structured in certain ways, what is the letter and intention of the standard. So primarily, the standard intends to address three critical areas in any business. Customer satisfaction, that is the heartbeat of any organization. So that is comprehensively addressed in the quality standard, which is ISO 9001. Number two, continual improvement. The standard challenges any organization that intends or that is in the business of delivering service or products to customers or stakeholders. So the way you were doing business last year must be improved when we look at it this year. So you are challenged to embark on a journey to continually improve the way you do business and then deliver your services and products to your customers. Focus area number three, risk-based thinking. In terms of the standard, the framework of the standard is structured in such a way that when you implement it, you're basically addressing the broad risk exposures of your business, including strategic risks like investment in new markets, partnership, supplier agreements, looking at your internal processes, your equipment process alignment, legal risk, operational risk, security risk, financial risk, HR risks. So when you structure your business management system, I prefer to call it business management system. Other people prefer to call it quality management system. So you are basically focusing on risks you are exposed in the marketplace. Okay. Okay. So
Yeah, yes, Elder is still
visible.
visible.
Okay. I was seeing some messages saying it's paused here. So clause 4, which is the start of the requirements of the standard for an organization. So if you are in construction industry, the standard says it's a generic universal standard which applies across all industry sectors, all types of industry. It gives you the generic business practices on how to structure your business and how to manage an effective business system. So number 4, clause 4, we call them clauses, requires an organization when you implementing a quality management system. This ISO 9001 must be brought into context of your business. The clause 4 requires that you define who you are to such an extent that if I was going to open your quality manual, I'm going to explain the documentation structure before end of this presentation. If I was going to open your first page of your quality manual, it should show me that either you are in construction or you are a medical facility or you're a power utility, you're a water utility, you're an electrical engineering company, you're an engineer. So, because the standard requires you to identify your unique internal risks and the unique external risk exposures. Clause 4, organizational leaders, like the demonstration of commitment. What is commitment? Many of us, we talk about commitment. You look, I'm committed as a managing director. Quality is a top priority in my organization, but the standard defines how you demonstrate commitment. We don't hear commitment in a quality management system. We see and feel commitment through defining of policy, the value systems of your organization, the objectives, what are you trying to achieve? And are your objectives aligned to the broad quality requirements of your business? So under clause 5, we align your business management system and the leadership to address critical quality requirements that align to your overall mission and vision of your organization. Clause 6 talks of planning. Many organizations have got the business running processes happening across, but in many instances, processes are happening in a disjointed fashion. So clause 6 brings in the discipline of organizational planning. It requires you to identify, for example, what are these processes you require for your business? I need engineering. Oh, I need finance process. I need HR process. I need business development process, and so on and so on. So when you lay out your business processes there, the planning requirement from the standard is that these processes must talk to each other. They must not be competing against each other. They must be working together to achieve your overall organizational objective. To such an extent that if finance comes up with an objective, for example, to ensure that the business achieves a 20% business profitability in 12 months, the current financial year, 12 months. Finance has looked at expenses incurred in human resources, expenses incurred in engineering, expenses incurred in the stores or procurement department, to such an extent that If finance comes up with a profitability margin that does not talk to organizational expense, they will not achieve what they want to achieve. So the planning really realigns different processes within the organization to achieve the broader or the bigger goal of the company. Clause 6 talks of support, the identification of resource requirements for the business. What is it that we require for our business to operate optimally? So usually we look at the aims of resource needed in a business. First aim will be your manpower. So when you say you need manpower, the standard requires you to identify the competence requirements for each function. For example, if you are a civil engineering company, you probably need a civil engineer. It's not just a civil engineer. You define the competence requirements in terms of training, in terms of experience, in terms of the skills required for the function. So you do a job spec and look for a person that fits the job spec. In instances where you have got a person in place already and you see that there are gaps, the standard provides for skills development. So I've just talked of 1M, which is manpower. You also need money, which is the second resources. To run your business, you need adequate funding of the business. So it's not thumb-sucking of numbers. It's a detailed analysis of financial requirements of the business, looking at the growth trajectory of your business and what will be required to support that growth, including the general operational requirements of your business. That will be your second M. Your material requirements. What are the raw materials? What are your inputs which you use into your internal processes? It's not just taking any raw material. For example, if you are in construction, one of your core material will be probably cement, will be maybe aggregate stone, aggregate, and so on and so on. So when you look, for example, at the stone aggregate, it's not just any stone. You're looking at the technical specification of what will be required for the final product you are manufacturing, or what you are producing, what you are constructing. Looking at we call it the rock mechanics, the strength, the pressure resistance, and the water penetration, and all those technical requirements. You engineers in the field, you know the technical specifications, including cement. It's not just any cement. So when you are looking for the raw materials, they must not be just any raw materials. These materials must be as per technical specification required for your final product to meet user requirements. So I've given you 3 M's. So the M's go all the way up to 8, including machinery, including minutes, the time budget requirements for your production processes, and so on and so on. So the support infrastructure required for your business need to be clearly defined and need to be provided to the business. Clause 8 talks of operational controls. We have identified the various processes, engineering, HR, finance, human resources, procurement, and so on. We call these business processes or operations. So these operations must be controlled. How do we control these processes? By thinking ahead. If you have a function in HR, if I can give an example of HR, you are recruiting a person for an engineering department. It's so your recruitment process or operation need to be clearly defined so that the final product that comes out of your recruitment process meets engineering department's requirements, performance requirements. If you have an engineering process, for example, of manufacturing switchgear, that operation of manufacturing of switchgear must have inbuilt controls that are robust, that meet international requirements, that guarantees an end user of your switchgear operational effectiveness of your switchgears you have supplied to your customers. So this talks, so the beauty of ISO 9001, it gives you, it's user friendly. You'll be able to say, I am into logistics. What are my operations? I send trucks across and so on. And what are the risks? Product losses? How do I mitigate? So you identify your operations, your processes, and do what we call a risk analysis of each process. When you have done the risk analysis of each operation, you then develop the risk mitigations into your operational control. So that's clause 8 of the standard. I'm summarizing this. Clause 9 looks at performance evaluation. You have planned, you have done everything, your leadership is in place, your business quality system is in context of your what you do, you are running the business. You are then required by the standard to look at performance evaluation. When you are designing your business, providing resources, you had a final outcome in mind. You wanted to achieve certain outcomes. So the requirement for performance evaluation is basically saying, are you achieving what you intended to achieve from this operation? So how do you do that? There are various tools clearly explained in the standard of key indicators for performance. For example, process efficiencies, customer feedback, resource use, profit margins, your human resources performance, your outputs from your system. Clause 10 then says, okay, you have done your performance evaluation. Where are the gaps? The gaps becomes your improvement areas so that you meet your performance expectations. So in a nutshell, so improvements will come through your internal, if you have an audit, if you've got a customer complaining, if you've got a process failure. Failure in a business is not failure totally until we lose opportunity to draw lessons from that failure. So every failure
Excuse
must
me,
be
our
utilized
facilitator.
to develop and strengthen the business. Okay. I'll go to the next slide.
Excuse me, our facilitator, we are not seeing the presentation. Do you mind to reshare?
Okay. How is it now? Or I must resume resharing. Okay. How is it now?
We can now see, but we are on the first slide, please.
Okay, cool. So I was explaining this slide in the last couple minutes. Basically, 10 clauses of the standard and how it provides guidance to those who are implementing this global way of running business in a quality way. The next standard, the next, so the 10 clauses, what they want to achieve is a superior customer satisfaction. If you are effectively implementing this quality standard, customers must never walk away from your business because you really go beyond meeting their requirements. You go to the next level, which is exciting. The other benefits of the standard or quality management system is reduced wastages and inefficiencies in your businesses. Most of us, we are running very expensive operations because in our processes, there are so many wastages and inefficiencies. So if you are implementing a quality management system, you should ideally become more profitable because you drastically reduce waste generation, you drastically reduce process inefficiencies. Employee engagement, it's a requirement of the standard that we engage with our employees. Our employees know better. They have got the first-hand experience and contact with our business processes. They know where it is necessary to discard some processes or enhance some processes. Benefit number 4, reputation. Once you are known for quality, you basically reduce your marketing budget because quality sells. A business implementing quality has got the whole customer base as their marketing agents. Every customer you have delivered product or service to becomes your marketing executive, basically. They will tell their friends and their friends will tell their friends. It becomes a chain reaction to support a business that is implementing sound quality management system in the businesses. Benefit number 5, easier compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. Most of us, or some of us, we struggle with the compliance issues. So one of the requirements of the standard is guidance on the legal compliance. Remember, we said the risk exposure include legal risk. Where is the legal requirements attached to each of the processes? In finance, you'll be required to identify all applicable legal requirements that has got a bearing on your finance processes like VAT, PAYE, UIF, and so on. And so on. In operations, the technical standards, safety standards, and so on and so on. So your ISO standards automatically helps you to be compliant. You cannot be a business that is implementing a quality system, but at the same time, not complying with the legislation. I'll quickly go through what we call the principles of the quality management system. Principles of this quality management system basically are the universal laws, if you want to call it that way. These are the laws governing your business. Any business that succeeds is obeying one or most of these laws, if not all of these laws. Law number 1, a business must be customer-centric. You must be sold out to meet customer requirements. There's obviously, when we come into organizations to implement these standards, we highlight the customer requirements and strike a balance between meeting customer requirements and the cost of meeting customer requirements. It must always make business sense. Principle number 2 is the principle of leadership. If you are going to succeed in business, leadership capability is non-negotiable. Even Moses, when he was being cautioned by his father-in-law in Exodus chapter 18, he was told to choose capable leaders, capable people. So leader capability has got a great bearing to business success. But we guide managing directors, HODs, supervisors, and so on, people in management roles we develop their leadership skills. We're not born leaders. Leadership is developed. So there is no one who says, me, I don't know how to lead. No one is born a leader. Many people are trained to become leaders. So the standard gives guidelines on how should you develop to be a better leader. It gives you guidelines on the deliverables for a leader. Principle number 2 is people involvement or engagement of people. You cannot succeed running a corporate or a business if you are doing everything alone and just issuing instructions to people. People have got a wealth of knowledge and experience that benefits an organization, and they are available if the opportunity to participate and to come up with the ideas is sought. So a sustainable business is where people have got a sense of ownership of their processes, have a sense of belonging to the business. So it's important. And when we talk of engagement of people, we talk of the broad spectrum of your stakeholders. And the employees are just but one segment of your stakeholders. You can also engage your suppliers. You need to engage your customers. You need to engage maybe statutory bodies. You need to engage your bankers, your financiers, your insurance people in your business, because these stakeholders have got expectations from your business. They've got certain things they are looking for in your business. So their requirements must always be sought. Okay? Process approach, I've touched on this earlier on, that your business is one body with the different parts. If one part of your body is not well, the whole body stops to function optimally. So the concept or the principle of process approach is the requirement for a business person to treat all the processes as part of an organization required to work together. So we say, in terms of our process approach, think broadly, but act locally in your process. As you are recruiting people, remember that you are not just recruiting people, you are meeting a requirement of another related process, which could be maybe a finance process or an engineering process. So the need for a business to align processes so that they are complementing each other in terms of overall outcome expectations. So when we guide you to develop a superior quality management system, these are things that are quite exciting. And some of us will be able to see where we are duplicating processes, where there are redundant processes, which have become a burden to our business. So it becomes an opportunity to really revisit our process and improve our business. Continual improvement law, or principle number 5, if you are not improving in your business, you are on your death bed. Basically, the requirement, law number 5, is you must demand certain performance improvements in your business. Otherwise, you are stagnant and you are not growing. And if you are not growing, eventually you will die. Any organization, be it big, be it a mammoth, a huge organization, we give a very graphic illustration of the mighty post office services. It was huge. In every location, you would find a post office. But because they failed to adapt to times, we're now talking them in the past tense. They used to be there. So any organization that fails to embrace the demand for improving themselves on a continual basis is risking death for itself. So that's law number 5. Evidence-based decision-making is principle or law number 6. Leaders in business, we go basically to work to make decisions. And the requirement from a sound business practice is that we must not make knee-jerk decisions. Any decision arrived at by a business person must be supported by solid evidence, justifying the need for a certain decision that will influence business outcomes. So it is important that we do not do or make rash decisions. Because I'm in a bad mood, I go to work, I change things. Because I'm happy the other day, I go to work and do certain things in the other way. Businesses must be predictable. If you are running an unpredictable business, then your growth will be very much constrained. Last but not least, law number 7 of business sustainability is relationship management. Business is all about managing relationships. Some of the relationships are internal. Some of the relationships are external. I used to work for this big corporate, and we had a whole spectrum of employees, the general laborers, we had technical people, we had qualified engineers working with people there. And these guys would say, these guys are not educated. We are going to be teaching them. But believe you me, those uneducated people will tell me, give more. We fire general managers, we fire directors, we fire HODs, we fire anyone. And I saw them doing it. Because you don't respect them, they will not perform. And everything will point to the HOD or ultimately to the director, as it were. The business will collapse. So internal relationships need to be managed. External relationships need to be managed. Your business will grow supported by how well you relate with the various stakeholders that are in your business. So these are the laws, the principles that governs a quality management system. So when we develop a business quality system, these are the things we are building into your business so that it becomes a resilient business. It can survive all weathers. Okay. Exceeding customer requirements and expectations should be your primary quality goal. Why does it matter? We have already explained. So how do you apply this? Understand the current and be predictive in terms of customer preference movement changes. The customers are changing in terms of their preferences all the time. So a successful business is the one that is following customer trends and movements. If you are not careful, if you are operating, I want to give you an example of maybe a power utility like Eskom. If you are not following the trend, you find that you have got excess capacity with no customers because people have gone solar, people have gone other green options. So you always must be ahead of the game and predict customer movements. So this is the explanation. Leaders create clear vision, direction, and an internal culture. This is very important. An organizational culture is like your DNA. You can be running, you can have 10 competitors in electrical engineering, but no one can ever copy your culture. Your DNA, that defines who you are, the way you do business. The way you do business, it cannot be copied by anyone. They can steal your strategic documents. They can come up with ways of getting your documents and so on, but they can never steal the spirit of the company. Okay, engagement of people. We've talked about employees who feel valued and involved contribute more effectively to quality outcomes. So we need to provide the training. We need to encourage open communication. We need to recognize contributions and promote teamwork in our businesses. We have already discussed process approach. Viewing work as a system ensures consistency, efficiency, and clear accountability. So I've talked of process mapping already. Understand your process and how they relate to each other. Improvement, we have looked at it. You can improve from customer feedback. You can improve from objectives met or not met. Okay. Okay. Relationship management, communicate expectations clearly with partners, build long-term trust-based relationships. You cannot short-circuit relationship building. You have got to go the long and solid way of building trust. Your trust, your credibility is tested over the long term. Every order, people are trusting you or not trusting you. You demonstrate your reliability or not being reliable. Okay. I know some of you are excited. You now want to say, hey, give more. How do I get my company certified? It's not rocket science. Sandra said we have been in quality management system implementation for more than 30 years. In fact, it's actually 35 years. So we break it into simple 9 steps that are easy to understand. Anyone can follow them depending on your size of your organization and your availability in terms of time. We give a plus or minus 9 months, depending on how you move as an organization. So the starting point is in making us like what we are sharing here. We then share in detail what the standard expects to your management team. Then we do a gap analysis. You are already in business. So you are doing a lot of things correctly. So ISO 9001 does not reinvent the wheels of your business. You're already running a very successful business, but there could be gaps. So we carry out a gap assessment. Then we train people to promote buy-in. Where we always want to achieve a status where people say, we are implementing a quality management system. We are developing a quality management system. We want to avoid a situation where our employees say they are, referring to a small group of people. It must be a group-owned initiative. So we do that through comprehensive training for all employees in the business, everyone, 100%. Then we go through a process of documenting these processes, the controls. So when you document a quality management system, broadly, it is constituted by 3 levels of documents. We call it level 1, level 2, level 3. Other professionals prefer level 4, but I prefer levels 3. I will explain when we have time in future. But basically, your first level, level 1, are your policy or directional corporate documents, like your policies, your objectives, things that governs the spirit and soul of the business. Level 2, we call them system procedures. These are aligned to the requirements of the standard, and every department within your company must be aligned to meet the requirements of this procedures. Level 2, things like how do you control your documents, how do you deal with non-conformities, how do you deal with auditing, internal auditing, things like that. Then in level 4 are our operational level, like your finance process procedures, your HR process procedures, your engineering processes, procedures, and so forth. So those are your 3 levels of procedures: strategic documents level, process or system procedures level 2, operational procedures or departmental process procedures, your level 3 documents. So, but this is quite exciting when you document what you are doing. It becomes quite revealing because of the immense knowledge people have, which has not been documented. And we use this process to create a property pool where you are basically capturing the mind of your employees into procedures. So there's no worker or employee who works like an encyclopedia of company information, which is not available to the company. So when we are documenting these processes, we are basically assisting the company to create that intellectual property pool, which becomes company property for future development, for reference, and so on. Stage 4, we do an internal audit. What we have documented, is it what we are doing? We evaluate documented requirements against actual practice. So we test the system internally. Then after that, we do our management review meeting where we are looking at how the business is performing. We look at the whole spectrum of business key performance areas and review if the business is meeting requirements. Once we are happy, we run a second audit, we run maybe a second management review meeting. When we are happy with you are not certified because you are a perfect organization. You get certified because you are on your route, you are on your road to excellence. I've had organizations I helped to get certified maybe 30 years ago, but when I go to audit them, I raise findings. Not that they are failing, but I'm identifying opportunities for improvement. So once we are happy, we invite an external certification body, like here, SABS, South African Bureau of Standards, or DQS, TUV, Berry Veritas, and so on and so on. They come to do an independent assessment. And once they are happy with us, they give us a certificate as a public declaration that our business meets global standards for quality. So that's step 7 and 8. So they carry out what they call stage 1 audit and doing documentation, your procedures and so on, familiarizing themselves with your process. Stage 2, they are carrying out a live audit, testing your processes against the requirements of the standard. Stage 9 is where many organizations fail, they get certified, then they rest. But the standard requires that you embark on a journey for continual improvement. So that's basically the route to certification for ISO 9001. It stretches for the rest of the life of your organization. What are the usual challenges which we face? Like I have said, I've been implementing these standards for over 30 years. Many people don't like change. Habits that have been developed over 20 years, over so on, people get comfortable even with the wrong practices or introducing new things, they start resisting. So overcoming this requires strong leadership, sound communication system, change management processes. Don't shock the system. We warm people into the quality system. The other challenge which I have experienced is the lack of management commitment. Most of managers I meet, they will declare their commitment, but my usual answer or response to their declared commitment is, I don't hear commitment, I see commitment. You must demonstrate it in the way you conduct yourself, how you speak, how you run the business. Inadequate training and awareness, we cannot rush it. Some people have said, give more, I want ISO certification next week because there's a tender. There is no fast tracking of quality management system. People need to be trained. People need to understand it so that it becomes permanent knowledge within your business that helps you to change or adjust the culture of your business into that of quality. Poor documentation practices. I'm rushing because I'm left with 5 minutes, which I really wanted to leave for your quality system is not addressing your existing, not supposed, or it's not even designed to be complicated or used by people. Another challenge which we normally face is insufficient of resources, particularly time. People want this in 6 months, but they must make available certain hours, and people don't have usually the time. Difficulty in measuring performance. We don't know what we want to achieve, or we have got a vague idea of what our objectives are. Auditing and compliance pressure. The auditors can exert immense pressure on organizations, and it becomes a big challenge to organizations. But our clients, we normally help them to weather all that pressure. We stand guard and protect them so that they are not overrun by these pressures. Maintaining momentum after certification, I've already said, usually some people, once they get certified, they say, but they start celebrating and the party runs on and on until people forget why they implemented this quality management system. So I'm coming from an organization called Akil Projects. We are basically management system experts running a broad spectrum of standard-based training and consulting services for your food safety, quality system, environmental systems, safety management, risk, and so on. Most of your ISO standards will be capable of assisting. So this brings us to the end of our presentation in a nutshell. Elder Sandra, can I give this time back to you to coordinate if there are any questions or clarifications required?
Thank you so much for such an enlightening presentation. I'm just waiting for the colleagues to write in the chat box if they have any questions. Unfortunately, I don't have access to my WhatsApp, but the members can help me to check if there are any questions on the WhatsApp box. But thank you so much for interesting presentation, for going through the 10 clauses of the ISO standard. I think we are all kind of more clearer in terms of what is expected and what are the areas that the standard considers. Also, the 7 principles of quality. What exactly are we saying when we are saying quality? It's not just a buzzword, but there's actually certain areas that we look at when we say quality. And also was following through when you went through the steps of the ISO certification, uh, from the awareness until the time of the actual assessment and certification, as well as the maintenance, and also some of the challenges that you have faced in organizations relating to implementation of the ISO standard, ISO 9001 standard. And I wanted to just find out from you where then do we place disruption? Because from your presentation, it seems it's so important to be predictable, to be consistent in how we do things. Uh, but my question is on disruption. We are living in a very agile environment wherein without disruption, businesses can find themselves out of business, like you mentioned one of the case studies. So that would be my question, to say, how do we then bridge the gap between the need to be consistent and predictable and the need to come up with new ideas and new ways of doing things?
Okay. In a nutshell, Sandra, the heart and soul of quality system is the challenge for any business to have their ears on the ground, to have their eyes open on the trends taking place in the marketplace. And one of the key requirements is innovation. In fact, I would say in each organization, one of the core requirements is process efficiency enhancement. Because if you're going to continue to, even for me, here as a quality management system expert, if I don't move with time, I will continue to give consulting services on redundant products, for example. I need to be able to provide the quality management system for AI, for example. How do we make AI more responsive to market requirements based on the quality standard? So when you look at any business, the one of the risks, because remember we said ISO 9000, one of the focus areas is a risk-based thinking. A business leader must always be awake to risk exposure. What is that is threatening our business continuity? What innovation is coming up in the market? And be the first, take the first mover advantage. You know, if you are first with a product on the market, you become like the go-to organization. So you are required from a quality management system and auditor, Miyake, I would be asking, what innovation are you looking at during the current financial year? And how is that going to be driven through maybe artificial intelligence? What is the market trend? Can you show us maybe through your process efficiencies, how you are going to innovate to reduce this 10% process loss maybe to 8% and gradually maybe to 5%? What are your competitor performance in terms of process losses? How do you benchmark yourself against the global best currently? And where are you? Is there a big gap between the market leaders in terms of your industry and where you are? So disruptions, look, for me, we must embrace change. We cannot resist the change. Otherwise, we become dinosaurs who died when they were giants of past years. But they felt adapt to change, and we read and go and see them in museums We don't want to be visiting Mia K in the museum. Yes. Any other question?
Thank you so much, Admire. Matsuanzera says, thank you, great presentation. Okay, if there's no any other questions, I think the details of our facilitator are showing on the screens. Thank you so much for such an insightful presentation. Let me just pause our recording for now.